in 2017, I was recovering from a shoulder injury, so I had the weekend off. Went round to family friend's house, first hot day of the year, and effectively dived into what I thought was deep water, but turned out to be only about 3 feet deep. And I suffered a really serious spinal cord injury, which rendered me paralyzed from the shoulders down.
Are you ready to make a change, but you just feel stuck? Or are you struggling to overcome a traumatic experience, but you just don't know where to start? In this episode, I speak to Ed Jackson, a former professional rugby union player who faced the life-altering challenge of becoming paralyzed after hitting his head diving into a swimming pool. Ed shares his story of not only overcoming paralysis after being told he would never walk again, but also climbing mountains and using his experience to help others, highlighting the critical role that support networks played in his recovery. Welcome to Move Your Mind, where we uncover why you are holding yourself back from getting the life you want and what to do about it. With the help from high-achieving guests and experts in behavioural science, personal development, and the health and wellness space. Join us if you're ready to move out of your own way toward your ideal self. I'm your host, Nick Brax, and I've been working in the health and wellness space for the last 15 years, helping people find direction and gain the courage to take control of their life. My mission is simple: to help you learn everything that I wish I knew, so you can become your ideal self. Lacking guidance, I spent the majority of my youth feeling lost and disempowered, which led to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and substance abuse. Looking back, I didn't have the vocabulary to communicate what I was experiencing. And as a man, I didn't resonate with the emotional language used in traditional therapy. I didn't need to talk about my feelings. I needed tangible solutions to guide me toward building a life I was proud of. If you can relate, then this podcast is for you. In this episode, we discuss the importance of support networks in overcoming life challenges. If you're ready to take action and build a stronger mindset, then keep listening. Ed, thank you so much for making the time to come on my podcast, mate.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to chatting.
Same here. And I was just saying to you, I've been, researching you, and it's so inspiring, the story. And it's probably, I think I'll just jump into that, just so our guests can learn a little bit about you. Do you mind just giving a background on yourself and just a brief overview of your story, of how you came to, be where you are now, and, what you're here to talk about?
Yeah, sure. So, in brief, because it's quite a lot's happened, but so I was a professional rugby player in the UK for 10 years, playing in the English Premiership and Pro 14, like the Celtic leagues over there. And then in 2017, I was recovering from a shoulder injury, so I had the weekend off. Went round to family friend's house, first hot day of the year, and effectively dived into what I thought was deep water, but turned out to be only about 3 feet deep. And I suffered a really serious spinal cord injury, which rendered me paralyzed from the shoulders down. I had a 7-hour operation, hoping it would help, but I woke up in intensive care, and I was quadriplegic effectively. So quite a drastic change from being a professional rugby player. And the movie then follows sort of my life since then and the recovery process, going from learning to walk again to now climbing mountains, which is obviously something I never expected I would be doing, because I was told that I actually wouldn't be walking again. But it's also about the emotional journey of running through trauma and the people it affected around me, and what we're doing with the charity as well. So there's lots of different things going on in the film. The reason we made the film was to hopefully have tangible takeaways for people, not just necessarily who are going through trauma, but kind of the lessons I've learned as well along the way. But also there's some pretty epic mountaineering stuff in there too. A big situation that we got into on a mountain in Nepal forms a big part of the film. but it's crazy to be sat here, talking to you and speaking to people with the film actually now becoming a reality, because it was 3 years ago when I got the phone call about it. And I actually thought it was a wind up, if I'm honest, especially when they said it was Universal who were making it. But it's here, it's real, and it's being released soon. So just looking forward for it to be out there now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think to anyone else, it probably doesn't seem crazy that Universal are making it, because it is a crazy story, and it's going to inspire so many people. I'm sure you already are. Uh, how was the initial mindset shift going from? I mean, it's such an extreme adaptation at the beginning, going from this professional athlete to then having to come to terms with what had happened in the accident and your new reality. Did that take you time to adjust, and what was the process you went through there?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, it was a process because it's such a shock. I think it's all I'd ever done, really. I found out at 16 I was I had a professional contract lined up for when I left school. Um, and my whole identity was wrapped up in being a rugby player, really, being a professional sportsman. And obviously to have that all taken away in an instant was tough to get my head around, because it wasn't like I'd just lost rugby, I'd lost me. I lost who I was. My identity was wrapped up in being a man, being physical, like all of the things that come along with that. And now I couldn't even feed myself, breathe for myself, go to the toilet for myself. And it was really tough to deal with. And there were some dark moments. And obviously, there's then the whole anxiety about what this means for the rest of my life, not just in the practical sense, but, for everyone around me. I was engaged at the time. I knew I wasn't ever going to play rugby again almost from when my head hit the bottom of the pool. I don't know. I just knew it was serious. And, um, but I didn't anticipate having to work out a new life. Was I going to have to sell my house to pay for rehab? I was telling my then fiance that she should leave me, and what this mean for my family, who are going to have to care for me, and all of these sorts of things. And that uncertainty brings with it a lot of anxiety. And it was a process to get to that point of acceptance, and a process that happened over time. And actually, a lot of it was wrapped up in starting to see some positives come from this sort of negative situation. And that was all around a blog I started in hospital. And then people were getting in contact with me and saying that my story was helping inspire them through their own situations. And then I set myself the challenge after, so sort of 3 months I left hospital, or 4 months I left hospital. 6 months I started sort of walking again more, got rid of the wheelchair. 9 months I set myself the challenge of taking on Snowdon, which is the highest mountain in Wales. It's a hill, really, but with a path up to the top, but it was still a massive undertaking for me at that time, because I wanted to inspire other people. And then I got to the point where I was like, okay, well, if enough good can come from this situation for other people, then by definition I can change it from a bad day to a good day when this happened. So I set out on that mission. That's led me to sort of all corners of the world, starting charity, opened up so many doors I just never imagined. Like what I'm doing now, I just never imagined I'd be doing any of those things, especially talking about a film about my life, all of those things. It's pretty mind-blowing, and especially considering it's come from what in the moment was the worst day of my life.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, and I think that message is so important, because it's like the saying that life only makes sense backwards, but has to be lived forwards. And
Mm,
oftentimes, I mean, that's an extreme circumstance you're under, and we all have different versions of adversity that we go through. And when we're going through it, we often can't see that light at the end of the tunnel. It's
mm,
only when we look back. And I mean, if I look back on my life, when I was 20, I had a car crash. My dad was, a famous politician, almost killed myself and my best friend. And it was, the worst moment of my life. But that led to this whole path that,
mm.
in the mental health area, speaking about it, that I would have never gone into. And now I'm grateful, not, wouldn't have done it if I could go back in time, but grateful for the path that it led to. But it's just,
Yeah.
I think it's such an important thing for people to hear and to see, someone like yourself go and do that. And, I guess so looking back now, is it the kind of feeling where you almost can't imagine not being on the path that you're on?
Yeah, like I think it was about 3 years in when I got to the point where I was like, I wouldn't take it back because enough
Yeah.
positives had come from that situation. I know what you're saying. Like, I wouldn't want to relive it. I wouldn't
Yeah.
advise anyone goes and dives into the wrong end of a swimming pool.
Yeah, don't
But
do that.
no, don't do that. But life deals you hands, right? And you can't control that. And there's no point trying to control that. All you've got the option to is play that hand the best you can or fold it and give up. And it got to that point. I was like, look, you either because there was a lot of remorse at the start and there was a lot of anger and frustration, that I don't deserve this. Why is this happening to me? All of those things. And then I got to the point where I was like, well, this isn't helping anything. I was like, you've just got to make the most of the situation you're in because that's all you can do. Stop getting angry at life for doing things to you. It's like just control what you can and try and make the most of the situation. And that's what I set out to do. And actually that realization has made me realize that I was way more capable than I thought I was, even before my accident. It's like you realize that most of the limitations that you live with and the things that you stop yourself from doing, they're imagined. They're just they're a product of your upbringing, your society around you, the general narrative of the public. But a lot of the time, it's just like your own confidence or lack of confidence in telling yourself what you can and can't do. And then I just got to the point where I was like, well, I'm going to go and find out what I can and can't do. And I'm going to test those narratives. And if I can't achieve something, then fine, but at least I'll know it. But I'm not going to die wondering. And what I realized was actually a lot of the things I tried, which I thought were far-fetched, I could actually do in the long run. So it gave me that gift, I suppose. But it had to come from contemplating losing everything in the first place, which is a powerful, powerful feeling, and one I'm sure you can resonate with. It is powerful, but it's formative. If you choose to react in the right way after it.
If you're looking to make a change, to lose weight, to get toned, to gain self-confidence, all in just 24 minutes a day, then go no further. You can check out the Move Your Mind community by going to nickbrax.start.page. Exactly. And, it's such a good point there because we're conditioned, whether it's from our parents, society, school, whatever it is, we're programmed to have certain beliefs, and there are certain things that we just tell ourselves, no, we can't do that. That's not possible. I'm not capable of this, or whatever it is. There's so many different narratives, and it really does take something extreme to change that. But when you really do challenge that, you realize that so many of these voices in our head aren't our own. They're put there from other people. And it can stop people from doing so many different things and leads to so many different mental health issues. So it's a challenging thing to confront, but like you're saying there, it leads to opens up a whole new world when you do that.
Yeah. They say like everything you want in life is just on the other side of those fears.
Mm.
It's like you've got to do the scary stuff to reap the rewards a lot of the time, and actually it's the tough things in life that make you who you are. Going through the tough things in life, they add the building blocks to your character. That's what changes you as a person. The wins and the successes, that's the icing on the cake. But they're enjoyable fleetingly. They're not the things that are going to really change who you are as a person. So, but when you're going through it, it's hard to see that. Like you said earlier, it's tough especially when you're going through trauma or something bad's happened. You're not thinking, oh, this is going to make me a stronger person. Great. You're just thinking,
Yeah.
oh, why me? Why is this happening? This hurts. This sucks. And it's not until you look back and realize actually that gave me the tools to then deal with this, or this opened that door up, or whatever it might be.
Exactly. No, 100%.
Mm.
So when this first happened, when you were sort of going through the initial rehabilitation process, you were told that you wouldn't walk again? Is that right?
Yeah, so they do something called an ASIA test after you have a spinal cord injury or any sort of nerve damage. It stands for American Spinal Injury Assessment, and it's a bunch of like pinpricks, temperature checks all over your body. It takes like 2 hours, every morning. They do it every 24 hours after an accident. And after 7 days, they give you a prognosis, because they can't just like MRI scan you or scan your nerves and say, well, that's still connected, so this is going to work. It's just a bunch of nerves and electrical signals. They have to do it on the kind of recovery you make over that first week. And after the first week, I'd made no recovery from below the level of my injury. So I was told I was category Asia A1, which is the highest level of spinal cord injury. Effectively means you've got a complete injury, and you're not going to make any recovery below the level of your injury. So I was told I wasn't going to walk again. What we were hoping for was more use of my arms and hands so that I could use a wheelchair and be independent, because where my level of injury was, C6, C7 at the bottom of the neck, that meant that I still should be able to use some of my fingers, and my triceps be effective, but biceps not, whatever it might be. So yeah, hearing that was tough, for sure.
Yeah. So how did you go from hearing that to then climbing a mountain?
Yeah, good questions.
And and what sort of had what are the, I guess the other part I was going to ask is, how big of a part uh, did your mindset and having that positive outlook have in eventually getting to that point where you are climbing this mountain?
Mm. Well, to be honest, when I heard that, I had a bit of a strange reaction. Obviously, it was the hardest thing I'd ever heard, but they basically verbalized what we already knew, because I hadn't seen any recovery below the level of injury. So I wasn't really expecting them to say anything else. But it was when he said, like, we're hoping for more use of your arms back, hands back, so you can be independent, that I realized that actually it wasn't just about me anymore. So I looked at like my mum and wife who were in the room and just thought, this is going to affect everyone that has to care for me for the rest of my life. And I said, but that's okay, as long as I know that I've played my part in this. So what I didn't want to do is turn around in 6 months or a year's time, and my family are caring for me, and think I could have tried harder. What if I'd tried harder? I didn't actually think anything would change, really. I just wanted to put the effort in, so that I knew that it wasn't all it was out of my hands effectively. So I spent every waking moment just trying to move something, and close my eyes and imagine it moving, and you don't expect it to be moving. And it was very much like that sort of Kill Bill moment, trying to stare at your toes and get them to wiggle. And one day, 36 hours later, I was moving my toe with my eyes closed, and then I opened my eyes and it was actually wiggling. And I just remember being like, what is going on? I remember shouting for my mum to come in from the corridor, and I didn't want to stop wiggling it then. And what it did show me was there was a connection past the level of my injury. There was something to work with. And, from that moment on, I just sort of set out on trying to regain as much as I could, never knowing where that would stop. I never imagined I would get to mountaineering or doing the things I'm doing now. And I feel unbelievably grateful for that. But it gave me that sort of hope that the effort I was putting in was paying off, paying some reward. And actually, I learned to focus on those small micro tasks of try and move your next toe, try and move your toe a bit further. And every day I was just trying to get those small wins, not knowing how far it would get, but it transpired into big results.
Are you interested in joining a community of like-minded people who are on the same journey as you are? Even though you're the one that needs to do the work, you don't have to go it alone. You can find all of the information at nickbrax.start.page. Yeah, and so many lessons in what you're talking about there for anyone listening. We can, especially in the world we live in now with, social media and everyone's wanting to, jump to just having success rather than having to go through these steps. And we need to be reminded of that. I know I've been overwhelmed more times than I can count by looking at that end goal before actually just taking the steps and allowing, things to just take place daily. And it's almost impossible to get there if you don't just take those little steps. So I think, that lesson is so important for anyone listening.
Yeah, for sure. I think I don't know, like you came from sport to a certain degree. Like you understand that you get out what you put in. You want to get stronger, you've got to train harder. Like all of those, you want to get better at things, you've got to put the reps in. And that was where I was it helped having that background towards my recovery. I knew I'd get out what I put in, but again, a lot of it was out of my hands, because the injury was the injury, and you can't out train. If I did have a complete spinal cord injury, it doesn't matter how hard I would have tried, I wouldn't have been able to out train that. But I just wanted to be able to recover towards the top end of my personal spectrum, and I knew to do that I had to put the effort in myself. Having said that, like, I had an unbelievable support network, which I feel incredibly grateful for having. Like, there was not just a really supportive friendship and family group, but also I met some great physios when I was in hospital. Very lucky to come across them. I also had the rugby community behind me. It felt like I wasn't just doing this for myself. Lots of messages of support. And I now know, or not now know, I realized quite soon after that a lot of my recovery was down to my support network, as well as the amount of effort I was putting in. It's kind of this big cauldron of stuff that you've got to get right. You've got to be lucky with the nature of your injury. You've got to put the effort in yourself. You've got to meet the right people and have this support network. And actually, that is what spawned the idea for the charity. I almost felt guilty for my support network, but also realized the power of it, and realized that other people don't necessarily have that. I spent 3 months on a spinal unit. Some people had no visitors. I just assumed that family and friends, that's a given in your room every day. So we started the charity to offer that, pay that forward to other people, not just because it's a nice thing to have, but it can really tangibly change your recovery. So yeah, a lot of things sort of fell in my favor in that respect.
Yeah, no, it's so important. And I mean, how important would you say it is for anyone suffering from, mental health related issues to have that support network? Because like you're saying, I know a lot of us don't have that. I feel very lucky that I've had a support network around me that's helped me immensely, but I've, spoken in so many different environments where you meet so many people and you realize, wow, these people, they don't really have anyone that they can lean on, and it would be so tough, and it's such a lonely feeling, and we all need that. So I guess, yeah, how important do you think that is for people going through mental health issues?
Immensely important. I think the thing is, the support networks are out there, no matter who you are. Like, if you've got a self-built one with a strong family and friendship group or whatever it might be, then great. But also sometimes it's good to reach outside of them. And if you haven't got them, one thing that happened for me, which was really useful, was the fact that I started writing a blog in hospital, or keeping a diary anyway. And then I was persuaded by my wife and a friend of mine to make it public, which I was very against, because I was in that sort of young bloke mindset of show no weakness, and I don't want to open up about my vulnerabilities, which of course is the wrong way to be. But that was me. That was Ed, the rugby player. Eventually they persuaded me to do it, because they said this might be able to help some people, and we were thinking, like, if any good can come from this situation, we might as well do it. But that meant other people got in contact with me that I didn't know, but had been through a similar thing before, which meant I had this impartial support network that I could tell them about my deepest, darkest thoughts, and the things I was really worried about, and the things I didn't want to tell my family, because I didn't want to worry them about how much I was struggling. And then they would come back and say, no, it's completely normal to feel like that, just stay in the fight. So actually, the support network of strangers is important too. And that is one of the positive things about, social media or connectivity or groups. My advice would be is to go and find them and reach out to them. There's a support network for basically any ailment or injury or medical situation out there, and going and having conversations with strangers actually is often a lot easier than speaking to people that because there's this subconscious feeling that it will come back to you if you're going to open up to people that are in your network, and all of a sudden you've got this impartial support network that can speak from experience, but also you don't mind if they know things about you, because it's not going to come back to you. So that would be my advice, is to hunt out. But the main thing is just communicate. Like, do not suffer in silence. Like, that is the biggest cause of issues. So yeah, just reaching out is really important.
And that's such a good point. We can often find it most difficult to open up to the people that are closest to us because we're worried that, they know us in a certain way, or they might, it feels uncomfortable to show a different side. But there's some liberation in talking to a stranger. They have no expectation. They don't know you, so you can sort of reveal anything. So I think
Yeah.
it's a really good point there. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was
Were
going
you
to say
gonna?
they have no opinion of you in the first place, so you're not
Yeah.
changing that. You're worried about with people you're going to change their opinion of you. Of course, it more than likely won't. In fact, it would have probably only strengthen their opinion of you. But there's still that feeling. Whereas as a stranger, they don't have an opinion, so there's nothing to change.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram at NickBrax. I really appreciate your ongoing support. Exactly.
Yeah,
It's a good way to, it's almost immersion therapy of being able to have that experience of talking about these things. And, for me, it was, again, if I go back to that car crash and I was afraid of my own shadow, I wouldn't talk to anyone about anything. And then I started sharing, like, similar to what you were talking about, with other people that had went through similar things. And then eventually that led to speaking in front of people, and it just broke down those barriers of, by just doing it, you realize, well, hang on, nothing bad happens if I am a guy and I
yeah,
show vulnerability and talk about emotions and talk about things that I thought people would judge me as being weak for. It's actually the
yeah,
opposite. You end up, really helping yourself and other people, and such an important thing.
yeah,
Another thing that came up, you were talking about when you went through the recovery process, I guess, having your family and having that feeling of, you need to do this, you need to try, not just for yourself, but for them. How big of a how important do you think it is that we have a deeper purpose for what we're doing, especially in the world we live in now, where a lot of us are wanting to just, get famous, get rich, whatever it is, actually having that deeper reason for whatever the hell it is we're doing. How important is that?
yeah. I think it's an incredible motivator, but I think if you can align what you do on a day-to-day basis or what you do for a living with a sense of purpose, then that's the secret, really, because it stops feeling like work. And often you won't get that purpose from material rewards. So I think that's what society tells you should be chasing, but actually it's a feeling you get from what you're doing. And for me, that is if you're doing something that tangibly positively impacts other people's lives, or you're really of use for what you're doing, to other people. I think that's human nature. Like, we're tribal creatures. Like, we have to be of use to each other. It's not just being of use to ourselves, because you take it back to caveman times. If you were being selfish and you weren't, you didn't play a part in the community and you weren't helpful to the rest of the tribe, you were just another mouth to feed. So that wouldn't work well for us. It's not surprising that if we can benefit other people from the way we act or what we're doing, we get rewarded with endorphins and all of the right chemicals for doing that, because that's what keeps the whole alive. So I think
Yeah.
the other I mean, the first time it reared its head was when I realized that I wasn't trying to get better just for me, it was for other people. So it was the independence thing. And once I moved my focus off myself and put it onto my mum and my wife, then all of a sudden I found the motivation to put the level of effort in I needed to sort of bust through that barrier and wiggle my toe. So that was a purpose. That was sort of refocusing the why of why I was trying to get better, away from myself to other people. But also, I think, like, what I've learned over sort of the last sort of 5, 7, 10 years has been that purpose is built. It's not found. It's not like, okay, that person's found their purpose and, I'm just never going to find it. It's not something you dig out the ground and go, oh, there it is. It's a way you act. It's aligning with your values. It's understanding what sort of lights you up and, makes your heart sing, for want of a better term. And then it's pursuing those things and acting in line with, your own core values. And over time, you build a sense of purpose. And if you keep acting in line with those core values and pursuing things that are important to you, life will work the rest out. Like, I never anticipated doing the things I'm doing. I just decided that I was going to say yes to things I was passionate about. I was going to take more chances, and I was going to appreciate every day that I was alive. And now all of a sudden, there's a film coming out. I've written a book. I'm working at the Paralympics for Channel 4. Like that was never part of the plan. It was just a change of purpose and a change of direction and aligning myself with my values. And then things started to open, which was quite sort of quite strange, really. It was almost like the less hard I tried chasing after stuff, the more things started to happen. Which is kind of contrary to what we get told in sort of Western society, or capitalist society. It's like, no, push for the pay grade, push for the job title, push for that house, try and be famous. Actually, the less you try and do those things and the more you try and be yourself, the more likely those things will happen.
Exactly. I love the way you've worded that there, and it's so true, and it's such a fine balance, because it's not having any expectation, not trying to force anything, but also just moving towards. It's also not just sitting there and hoping
Yeah.
things will just be okay, but you've got to take that action without expecting anything. So it's really removing ego, removing
Yeah.
expectation, removing all of these different things that again we're conditioned with. So I think we're running out of time here, so I think that was a great way to finish up. We just have 5 closing questions. These can be really quick answers that I finish every episode with. So the first one is, what's your best childhood memory that comes to mind for you?
Ooh. Um, Playing on the farm with my granddad was a farmer and used to drive the combines with him, and just being a child on a farm, and having fun. And I try and return to that as much as possible now. We often forget those things. So yeah, I think that would be my favorite.
100%. I love that. What do you think's currently the biggest burden on mental health in society?
Um, the distance of communication. I think like the less and less FaceTime with people, whether that be because of social media, screens, tablets, whatever it is. I think spending time with people face to face, like without an agenda, is so important for our mental health. So yeah, probably that.
You can't replace it. What would be your personal definition of happiness?
Gosh. um well, that's a tough one. Personal definition of happiness. I think contentment is aligns so much with happiness for me. I mean, there's moments of joy and happiness that go along from day to day, but actually it's more about being content with who I am and what I'm doing with my life. Allows that sort of layer of foundations to become happy on top of it. So instead of just chasing the sort of big rushes, it's more about getting your life to a point where you are content with who you are and what you're doing, and then more happiness grows from it.
Absolutely. If you could give one piece of advice to your 18-year-old self, what would that be?
It's all going to be okay. I used to stress about so much stuff and it was trivial, and it's like you look back and it's trivial, but in the moment it is trivial. Like in the moment it's massive, but you look back and it is trivial, whether that's being selected for the next team, or you think your life's going to end because you didn't get another contract, or because your friend's not speaking to you. But I think the pendulum always swings. Like when it's bad, things are going to come good again. When it's good, they're going to go bad again. That's life, but it does keep swinging.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. Really, really well put. Final one. You've got so many that you could answer here, but what would you say you're most proud of?
Um, I think sort of professionally, if you like, but it personally as well, is our charity, Millimeters to Mountains, and like the fact that we are tangibly having an impact, a positive impact on other people's lives. I think um, I was helped so much, and I had people that inspired me and supported me. So to be able to pay that forward now, but then just and see the results is an incredibly humbling place to be. So I'm really proud of that.
Amazing. Well, yeah, thank you again, mate, for making the time. Congratulations on everything. Congratulations on the documentary. Final thing, we'll have all of this in the show notes, but where can we send our listeners if they want to find out more about the documentary, check out your charity, anything else? Where's the best place to send them?
Yeah, so you can go to the mountainwithinme.film or millimeterstomountains.org for the charity. The film's going to be available on digital to sort of buy or download from the 28th of August over in Australia. Or like my social media on Instagram's Ed Jackson 8. So all the links off that go to all of the, the charity, the film, and everything else.
Amazing. Well, that'll all be in the show notes. So everyone listening, make sure to check all of that out. And Ed, so great to meet you, mate. I really appreciate having the time to chat to you. I'm super inspired by what you're doing. I'm sure all our listeners will be as well. And thank you again for making the time.
Cheers, Nick. Lovely to meet you too.
Thank you, Ed Jackson, for joining me today and offering your insights. And thank you for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode and any suggestions for topics you'd like to hear about. Feel free to leave a comment or send a DM. Your feedback is always appreciated. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram. It really makes a difference. Thank you so much.